All right, welcome to the still no-named Superintendents podcast. Eventually we'll come up. I still go with Dinner with Doug. I'm telling you. Dinner with Doug.
That might just stick. Like,
imagine we had and we'll have WCAT pay for food and we'll do courses.
Well, I'm wondering, that's something. We might have to have WCAT sit in on the podcast to give us to weigh in on that proposal.
True. Or we, you know what, actually, if we ever wanted to really show off different parts, we could do culinary, go into the culinary and do it there.
That's a great idea.
And be this podcast is actually Dinner with Doug. And then
That's a great idea.
We
could do it in the TV studio.
We could.
We could do it in math classroom. It'd be fun. It'd be fun to do.
True. Hey, I've been learning more of the lingo from our kids.
Boy,
and I just say, I think
this is always dicey.
It's Sigma Riz. I don't know what that means, but I think
Sigma Riz.
I've heard it's good. Okay, so this is the fun time of year.
Yeah.
Let's start with the usual. Since the last podcast, so about a month ago, anything fun? New Year, early February, anything you want to catch people up on?
Oh my goodness, there's a bunch of irons in the fire.
I think we've been mostly just focused on our budget process. That's been a lot of what the last month has been around. Getting around to schools.
Well, that's the first thing to discuss, so we can go right into it, which is it's the budget time.
We're so consumed with it right now. It's the first thing that comes to my mind.
We absolutely are, and so one of the things that we are working on is not only creating a more sustainable or more informed but more sustainable budget is really the trick. Something that we are starting off with is just really trying to acknowledge where we are, right? It doesn't preclude us from talking about what our challenges are and what we're having difficulty funding or thinking about funding. But in terms of just acknowledging where we are, when you look at the town and you look at the new growth and kind of how the town is progressing and how that has benefited the town, it's also benefited the schools, right?
Sure.
And it's the parts are interconnected, right? And so we've been particularly fortunate. The leadership of Steve Mayo has been exceptional. Steve Mayo is super, super conservative and frugal with his money, or with the town's money, not his money, but that disposition, along with kind of the trust that he engenders through his leadership and his time working here in the town, has really been a benefit that we have seen, and we're really starting to get a little concerned because of we're happy that he's retiring, but at the same time, for the last decade, he has helped us, work through our challenges, and we have both kind of figured out how to give ground and figure out how to figure a path forward. But in regard to kind of where the town is financially, the town is in an amazing place with new growth. I think that they've been super conservative around kind of the forecasting, which again has been a benefit for both the town and the schools. And so now in regard to FY26, we are preparing a budget where we're really trying to, one of the biggest goals we have is to go to town meeting and work very closely with our FinCom liaisons and the Finance Committee, so that we can answer any questions that they might have, and feel assured that they can step to the podium and kind of propose favorable action and to support the school department budget. That doesn't mean that there aren't going to be disagreements, or it doesn't mean that we are not going to need to collaborate on challenges and increases in spending that we have. We need to do those things. But if you look at our budget compared to some of our surrounding towns, including the increased costs for labor, our trend line has been going up considerably more slowly than some other districts. I think that is because, by and large, we have tried to budget differently and create offsets in costs, and also really do everything that we can do to minimize the amount of money that we're asking for from the tax levy, right? So for the last 5 or 6 years, we've come in at a certain number, let's say 5%. We've had additional money that has been added to those budgets through ARPA or FEMA or federal reimbursements that came through COVID, that now those have gone away, but we're now using, for example, revolving funds to create an offset, again, to keep the money that we're asking from the taxpayers as low as possible. And so, again, our trend line in increases, it is going up, but it is not kind of making these sharp spikes and cliff-like falls that we're seeing in some of our surrounding districts.
Well, you're absolutely right. I think it's Stoneham, Melrose are both having override votes. Reading recently had an override vote. I think last year.
North Reading.
In North Reading.
Right.
So it's Wakefield is the anomaly by not asking for an override. And I don't know if people give the town as much credit as it should for that point.
But the reasoning, but we agree with the town leadership and town council and school committee. School committee has advised us, and we report to school committee. And in our reporting to school committee, they've been pretty adamant about, that, our override came when people lined up to vote for the new high school. Mm-hmm. So the notion of we've secured funding for the new high school, but now we're going to ask for an operational override on top of it. I'll be honest with you, I don't think that there would be an appetite for that. While at the same time, we need to kind of attend to and inform the increases that we're making and why. So the increases that we're looking to make are very small, and they're really targeted at addressing our most vulnerable learners. I know Kara could probably share a little bit about our increases in our multilingual learner population.
Oh, look at it. See, I was going to segue to the construction of the high school, but
okay.
You segued into, well, let's do this. We'll go into the high school in a minute, but let's talk about those increases. And specifically, usually you see the needs in special education, the multilingual learners. Carol, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, I think as we've been talking about the budget this year, it's not like we've been saying, we need all of these additional things. We're really talking about maintaining a lot of what we built over the last several years and really trying to keep the strong programming that we have going so that we can support as many students as possible. I think you probably saw that in our budget survey that we sent out to the community. We really had a focus on just the key investments that we've made in the district, whether it's special education programming, programs for multilingual learners, high quality instructional materials. A lot has been done the last several years that we really want to keep going. So yes, our multilingual learner or our students whose first language is not English, our population has probably tripled in the last several years. We've had an influx of students at all different age groups and all different language proficiency levels, which has prompted us to really think differently about our support. So we've had to look at our staffing, we've had to look at our class placement, our programming, just to make sure that we're meeting those needs. And that's definitely something that we have our eye on to further improve next year, whether it comes to additional curriculum resources, online programming. We did create a program this year at our elementary school. It's called our LEAP program, and we're always kind of shaping our program around the population of students we had, and we happened to have a large enough group of students in kindergarten last year who were newcomers, limited English proficiency that really needed intensive early support. So we were able to create this program and offer intensive reading, writing, listening, speaking support for most of their morning, and then be included in general ed in the afternoon. It's worked out really well.
That's awesome.
With the idea of just kind of getting in early with intense support and then building the foundation and helping kids to get to move on from there.
Yeah, nicely said. I think, Kara's description of this was really, it's really an amazing summary, Kara. That's good. But what we're also learning is that we need to communicate more effectively, both to FinCom and to the town about, what is the difference between a multilingual learner, a student whose first language is not English, at kindergarten versus middle school, right? So when we have some students come in whose home language, their first language is not English, but their second language is English. And depending on where they live in the world and their educational background, we have students that move in that are fluent in more than one language. And it just so happens that their second fluent language is English, right? That's why when students come in, we do what we call a home language assessment, right? If they indicate that their home language is not English, we do a home language assessment to determine what level they might be at. And you can understand the need of a kindergartner is different than the need of a middle schooler. If you're in 7th or 8th grade at the middle school, the working theory in our curriculum is that you have enough English to participate thoughtfully to learn other subjects.
True.
So the understanding there would be, so if I can sit in a science class and if we're studying density, right, that density equals mass over volume, that old equation, if you're doing that,
Which we all remembered.
right.
Use it every day.
Karen gives me a hard time with this. I know maybe you don't
No,
use it every day.
the other day
but,
I used the quadratic equation.
these things are near and dear here. But if you have no English and you're sitting in one of those classes, you're not just at a disadvantage. It is just information that washes over,
Well,
over
you're
you, right?
absolutely right. I had a great discussion with the teacher the other day. We were talking about she was a high school biology teacher, and we were talking about teaching science and
Yeah.
different exams. And she said so many times the problem isn't like, they can do the formulas.
Yeah.
And they can actually tell you parts of the body, and they can tell you what a cell does, and tell you
Yeah.
about genetics and DNA, and they actually understand the science. Problem is, sometimes on these exams and sometimes on state exams, the questions are phrased in a way that they will not understand. So they will fail a state exam, but it's obvious that they understand the concepts that are being taught. And it goes to your point, if you don't understand the language, you don't have the basis for anything else.
Right.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, I mean, there's significant evidence in this area, in 8th grade science, and the 5th grade's MCAS for science. One of the questions is about a simple machine, an inclined plane, right? They talk about pushing an object up an inclined plane as opposed to lifting the weight, right? Simple concept, right? But an inclined plane, that language,
true.
there's significant evidence that's published, where a student whose first language was not English, they drew a plane, an airplane taking off, and this was in a plane that was inclined, right? And so, I use that as an example, but this is a concrete example for teachers when we are teaching or supporting students whose first language is not English. It really is an opportunity for us to think about our English development and our English immersion and how we support students that need different support, or how we check for understanding, right? But I bring this up because these small details are exactly the additional types of information that we need to talk more about beyond costs or beyond the story.
Well, you nailed it. And Doug, one of the things, I don't want to say his name just because I don't know if he would be okay with me sharing a story, but what I tell everybody is I still remember when I was 18 or 19 and I really wanted to be cool and run for school committee. Because all the cool people run for school committee. That's the.
I think there you go.
But I remember I was sitting in the living room, and this gentleman basically said to me, and it always stuck with me, you control other people's lives. This isn't just a hobby or something fun or some cool discussion point.
Yeah.
When you cut something, you're not just cutting a number to make a number. You are laying off. So I always stress, because, whether it's the newspaper or even the bigger political climate, when you lay off somebody or when you make a cut, or when you advocate for a cut, that's fine. But know and make clear and own the fact that you are advocating for really disrupting and uprooting somebody's entire life.
Yeah.
You are making the argument to say that somebody is going to be significantly impacted by that cut, and usually not in a good way.
Yeah, it can mean that. It can absolutely mean that, And the other thing that we're trying to be thoughtful about is how we can better partner with the town and support in different ways that we haven't supported in the past, right? How we might be able to contribute in the area of, let's say, capital
Yep.
improvements, right? I do know that we've made improvements in food service, and I know not only in the quality of the food that we're kind of putting out, but we're also kind of making improvements in terms of replacing some of our freezers and our stoves, and we just bought furniture for the Galvin, and moved the furniture that was at the Galvin over to the high school. So it's like nothing's getting wasted, right? Everything's
Yeah. By the way, I'm so hungry now after this whole conversation.
Oh yeah.
I do actually. This is a good segue into the other thing we're going to talk about, which everybody asks about, is the progress of the construction, the new high school. It looks. I have no idea what's happening, but it looks like it's going well.
Yeah. So we might need to figure out how to maybe put some pictures of the new high school up while we're kind of having this podcast. And so one of the things that we're talking about right now, and this came from Tim O'Brien. Tim O'Brien, by the way, is our director of facilities. He is like the magic behind the machine. He is just, he never says no, to a fault, right? Never says no, is always involved in helping so many people in so many different ways. But we were just...
That's why they have the golden statue of you, right?
Of Tim?
No, I would say of you for the
No, that's a hard no. There might be one of Tim. I would say that would be great. But in regard to Tim was just saying to me that, Doug, we did a walk with school committee probably about 9 weeks ago.
I'm trying to remember when that with the beam.
Yeah,
ceremony?
well, but after the beam.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
So I
probably.
think it was after the beam, the placing of the topping off ceremony. But we did a walk with our members of our school committee. Some members of town council came. But we need to do this more now and with different groups. And so Tim had suggested, he had said, I think we need to make some time to have teachers kind of start to walk and see.
Good idea.
And also to get some other members of the town that have not yet seen behind the white kind of material that the building is now wrapped in to keep it both dry and as warm as it can be. And the reason that is because the pouring of concrete, it has to be maintained at a certain temperature and also kept dry. But they're making significant progress. And when you go in it and see it, oh man, it's heart-filling. It really gives you a picture. It's not different than, building a new house or doing an addition where you see, when they frame it, you might have an architect's rendering, but then when you see the frame, when you see the floors, when you start to see the mechanicals going in, it really starts to take shape. Yeah. One of the things that, another part of that we're also kind of thinking about is if any of the credits, we're looking to try to get the highest rating possible, what we call the LEED certification for the most energy efficient building that we can get. We just want to make sure that we're getting the credit that we need to get, and that there's no kind of penalty for potential changes in those types of certifications. But that's a technical aside. I probably shouldn't even bring that up. But there's a lot, and back to, I want to give credit where it belongs. Tim O'Brien's been doing an amazing job. He just brought up this notion of when the weather starts to break, getting other groups of people in to see the construction. And we've also had classes in.
I was just going to say, I just saw an email between Tim and Joanne Marks, our science coordinator. I believe he's trying to tie in an engineering class too, as well.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Super
Very cool.
cool. This is super cool.
I do want to bring it up. So we are getting to the time of year where it's kindergarten enrollment, pre-K enrollment. What's it looking like size-wise? I know everybody's always worried because they see all the new housing, all the new condos. What's pre-K look like? And then as we get to kind of wrap up here, let's end on the new generation. What should parents with kindergartners be doing?
I know a little less about pre-K enrollment. I know
I can talk about
you've
pre-K.
been more
You
in
talk
touch
about
with Shannon. Our kindergarten registration has gone well. I work really closely with Deirdre Sandonato in our office on enrollment, and numbers look good right now. There was a couple of years where we spiked, not in an unmanageable way, but they're kind of leveled out right now. Our class sizes look good. We're in the process of finalizing school assignments. Those letters should be going out soon. And then we'll have a kindergarten information night for new parents on March 27th. We're also including an interest survey in the letter to see how much participation we would get if we can run our summer kindergarten acceleration academy again, which we've run for the last 4 years in August. So we're hopeful to run that again this summer. So we'll try to we're kind of sending out a save the date, because we know everybody's planning summer right now, so we want to get a save the date. But yeah, it's a great program. People love it.
It really is, and it's great. I mean, again, I know you've said this, but you know, I think once you get into the school system, it's true that the kindergarten levels and all the grade levels are great. But you know, I mean, you don't have to convince me. I think schools are the center of a community. I think
absolutely.
Makes them special. And then what's the pre-K enrollment look like?
So I just want to give another shout out to kindergarten, because kindergarten is such an amazing place. I was over at Greenwood visiting a kindergarten, and I had the good fortune of meeting a young student there. Her name was Isabel. And I said, "How are you today?" She said, "I'm good. How are you?" And who are you exactly?
Yeah. What are you
I
doing
said,
here?
"I'm Mr. Lyons." And she said, "Oh." I said, "Is your day going well?" She said, "Well, I don't know if you know. It's been a day." She said, "Things have really been busy." And my classmate, and she gave me the whole rundown on the entire class. This student has been out. This student's brother was sick. This student's father was sick. Like, she was in the know, and every single student in the class. And a student was late coming back from getting a little help in another area, and the student said, student looked at me and said, "I'm not really sure what we're talking about." And Isabel said, "Come on over here, I'll catch you right up." So, kindergarten is an amazing.
Your son, is he having a good year?
He is. Oh, Miss Ortega's amazing.
Yeah, she really is.
Miss Ortega's she's magic. She
really
is
She's
magic.
an amazing teacher, and
my
Kim
goodness.
Smith is an amazing teacher.
Absolutely.
Great thing. And
Yeah.
did the para contract start? I know this was
It started.
Mix.
Yeah, I was gonna say it probably just started.
It started.
Right?
We're working on it.
We've probably had 4 meetings.
Oh, okay. Oh, so it's
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
so it's in.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
If I'm getting that right. I think
Yeah,
it's been about 4 meetings.
and in the upcoming meetings, we hope to make a lot of progress, and our goal is to have it squared away by the end of the school year.
Yeah, she's my plug, Kim. I mean, I've only had experience with one para, which is Kim Smith, and she's amazing. I will say one other part of it. I remember this was kind of like one offshoot idea. You had the idea about the para academy. I thought that was brilliant. I mean, I don't know. I know it's probably not a municipal funding idea, but you look at the shortage, and I mean, it's not just Wakefield wise, but that's something. Maybe the state legislatively, like having these towns have their own little para academies, may be something to eventually push.
Things that are happening in other districts are also happening here. It's also just how it's managed, right? How we're handling shortages in certain positions. I mean, I think it's how we're managing it and decisions that a lot of our leaders and teachers are making, and the additional work that people are taking on, I think is a lot of credit is due in those areas. One of the things I don't want to get away from, I probably should have been more concise in answering the question when I was telling you about Isabel, is just talking about pre-K, because you had asked about pre-K, Anthony.
Oh yeah, we totally lost that.
I don't want to lose the opportunity. So last year we had it was kind of a tough pill because we couldn't accommodate 60 families, so we turned away 60. This year is a little better in that we just turned away 45, but we're still turning families away. Doyle every classroom is being used. We have 2 additional classrooms that are being used at the Woodville. We're super eager. Part of the construction at the high school has a couple of pre-K classrooms.
Still at Ewell, right? Or is it?
Yes.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Because that's a great. I mean, I haven't been in that facility in like 10 plus years, so I guess I should hold back before I say it's a great facility. But
yeah. If you're planning our next destination for our new pre-K learning center, I think that's a conversation. But
by the way, I didn't mean to.
No, I'm just giving you a hard time. So I don't think we're ready to have that conversation. I think
Post office moved all their shipping. I mean.
All right.
Out of there. So there's only 4 people who work. So if you want to call Congressman Moulton, have that transferred to public schools, no sale, free of charge.
you left the herd off the list. Is there
The herd? Oh, no, I have nothing against the herd. But is a herd? I mean, I guess could you fit the whole? I was thinking if you wanted to do it in one space.
Like a
You'd have
larger
to,
early childhood center
Yeah.
or something.
you'd have to still do it in two.
Yeah, no, then
Yeah.
the herd would also be an option. Yeah, what are we waiting for?
The
Yeah,
herd-
let's just we had a nice conversation. Let's just make this controversial. Why can't we just do this at the herd? What are we waiting for?
Well, the herd, I think plans for the
You
herd.
said it, by the way. Just to be clear.
I did.
You started this.
I did. You know, I think Steve Mayo has plans for the herd.
He's retiring. Who cares?
Well, I think he's protective. And I think in third grade there, when he was there, he was Rumpelstiltskin in a play.
And it's just he
And
can't let it go.
I think he can't let that go. I think it's too close to home.
But no,
to
but
the
you
heart.
can. Here's what I'll just add my 2 cents for what it's worth. It's you can't have every year where you have 50 or 60 kids. If there's a need for it, and there's
Well-
space for it, you got to make it work somehow.
Yeah. So so I think a parallel. So there's two conversations that are happening. Is one, what does the longer term forecast look like for pre-K?
True.
And why are we having this gap, right? And so, and our working theory is part of our working theory is that a lot of preschools have closed,
Oh yeah, absolutely.
right? And a lot of what were options for parents are no longer options. So I think that there's a higher demand for Doyle, which is
I think also just in terms of working parents' schedules, we have Doyle as the full day option plus before and after school care, plus the summer camp option.
Yeah.
You know, there's definitely some in terms of schedule and hours benefits to Doyle.
yeah.
Yeah. So.
The only other option really too is if you just start I hate to say this, it'd be logistically a nightmare, but you start renting out facilities. You basically do what preschools did, right? You rent out the church facilities, and you have it go through. But then you're talking having more than forget 2 sites. You're gonna have 5.
Well, but that
'Cause,
wouldn't.
yeah, every year we've progressed. I mean, so all of Doyle is full, and then it started with one preschool class at Woodville, and then a second. So we have
That's correct.
two of the classrooms at Woodville too. So we're trying to meet the need every year a little bit better. But,
And as accommodating as Matt Carter and the faculty and staff have been at Woodville, they're kind of like, we're full.
it's a lot.
No,
But we're trying, we're doing our best, and I think I think it is incumbent upon us to come up with some other options, and I think we're working on those things, and so.
Yeah, it'd be nice if you had an empty school building in town. All right, so all right, we're at the half hour. But is there anything as we wrap up that people should look at?
I missed the question. too.
No, as we wrap up, no. So is there anything going forward before the next podcast?
No, I think we are going to propose our budget to school committee on March 11th.
Yep.
We're looking forward to that. Our school business administrator, Christine Bufagna, has worked with a consultant and produced a video to better inform the viewing public about what are the parts of our budget and how do we construct it. So I think that's going to be helpful. And we're working really closely right now with our subcommittee, our Finance and Facilities Subcommittee, along with our FinCom liaisons. So we have members of FinCom that come over and meet with us. We met this morning to talk about where we are in the process. But excuse me, I get all choked up when we talk about budget.
It's a very special time for everybody else.
And so but we'll be presenting.
And
every week.
I will say, people in Wakefield should be appreciative. I mean, if you do, it's just if anybody ever has time, grab a local paper in town. There's override signs in Stoneham and Melrose. We're not having that debate, and I think a lot of credit, not just to you guys, but also to Steve, the FinCom, the school committee, the town council. I mean, it's knock on wood. I know sometimes people get wrapped up in what I call shouldn't call them minor issues per se, but I tell people, listen, if your biggest issue in town is arguing about decarbonization plans or bike, those are the issues you want to fight about. Because in Stoneham, they're talking about laying off teachers, cops, firefighters.
Yeah.
Same in Melrose,
Right.
and that is not a debate you want to have.
It's a really sad conversation because one of the things that is realized in those conversations is it takes moments to deconstruct or
so true.
undo what took 2 decades, 3 decades to build.
Agreed.
And it changes the integrity of what you're offering, right? And that's not just schools. Please, I'm speaking for fire, police, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a really tough situation.
No, completely agreed. So, all right, guys. Again, thank you to WCAT. They are
you.
so wonderful. Ian, again, I know I say this all the time. Ian, people don't realize this. It's not like the three of us contact each other and say, hey, when are we doing it? Ian literally goes out of his
Yeah.
way and says, hey,
Yeah.
when are you guys available?
Absolutely.
So, all right, guys. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you, Anthony.
And we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.